Have you ever stood in front of a mirror and questioned yourself? Not just your haircut or your outfit, but you, your worth, your potential. Whether you belong in the room you're trying to get into. Most of us have. In fact, most of us do it every single day. We wake up and before we've even had our first cup of coffee, the doubts start crawling in. Am I good enough? Am I smart enough? What if I fail, again? What will people say? We carry these questions like rocks in a backpack and we wonder why we're so tired by noon. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. The struggle with self-belief is not a weakness. It is the most human experience there is. It doesn't matter whether you're a student trying to pass an exam, an entrepreneur terrified to launch a business, a parent wondering if you're doing enough, or an athlete afraid to compete. The fear of not being enough lives in all of us. And the world doesn't make it easier, does it? People will tell you to be realistic. They'll remind you of your limitations. They'll point to your past mistakes as evidence of your future failures. Systems will be stacked against you. Circumstances will seem impossible. And sometimes, the cruelest voice won't belong to anyone around you. It will be your own. So what do you do when the world says no and your own mind starts to agree? You need a model. You need proof that it's possible. You need to see what a human being can do when they decide, truly decide, that they will not be defined by what tries to break them. That's what I want to give you today. I want to take you into the life of a man who had every reason to quit. A man who faced poverty, racism, political persecution, physical loss, and public humiliation, and who came out the other side not just surviving but glowing. A man who didn't just win fights inside the ring. He won the greatest fight of all, the battle to remain himself in a world that kept demanding he become something smaller. His name was Cassius Clay. The world came to know him as Muhammad Ali. And he was, without question, the greatest. January 17, 1942. Louisville, Kentucky. A boy is born into a world that has already decided what he is worth. Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. grows up in the American South during the era of racial segregation. He cannot drink from the same water fountains as white people. He cannot sit at the same lunch counters. He cannot walk through the same doors. The message being sent to young Cassius, every single day in 100 different ways, is this: you are less than. He is 12 years old when something happens that will change the course of his life. His bicycle is stolen. He goes to report the theft to a police officer named Joe Martin, furious, telling Martin he wants to whoop whoever took his bike. Martin looks at this small, angry boy and tells him something simple. Well, you better learn to fight before you start challenging people. Martin was also a boxing coach. Within weeks, Cassius Clay is in the gym. And something extraordinary begins to happen. In that gym, that humble, sweaty, imperfect space, young Cassius discovers that the world can be fair. In the ring, it doesn't matter what your skin color is. It doesn't matter what neighborhood you come from. What matters is how fast you move, how hard you work, how smart you fight. For the first time in his life, Cassius Clay is in a place where he can win. He trains with a ferocity that surprises everyone around him. 6 days a week. Early mornings. Late nights. He runs when others sleep. He shadowboxes in his bedroom. He studies every fighter he can find. He is not just learning to box. He is learning to believe that effort matters, that preparation is the foundation of confidence, that you build self-belief not by wishing for it, but by earning it, one training session at a time. 6 years after picking up his first pair of gloves, 18-year-old Cassius Clay stands on a podium at the 1960 Rome Olympics. Gold medal around his neck. The whole world watching. He comes home a champion. And then something happens that will test everything he has built. He goes to a restaurant in Louisville to celebrate, and he is turned away. Refused service. Because of the color of his skin. The Olympic gold medalist, the pride of American boxing, is not welcome to eat at a lunch counter in his own hometown. Legend has it, and Ali himself told the story, that he threw that medal into the Ohio River. Whether the story is literally true or not, the truth behind it is real. The world was telling him that his achievement meant nothing. That no matter what he accomplished, the system would not honor him. A lesser person would have accepted that message. Would have shrunk. Would have grown bitter and small. Cassius Clay grew furious. And he aimed that fury like a weapon. Here is one of the most important lessons from Ali's life, and I want you to hear it clearly. He announced his greatness before he had fully achieved it. This is not arrogance. This is one of the most psychologically sophisticated things a human being can do. Before his 1964 World Heavyweight Championship fight against Sonny Liston, a man so feared that almost no one believed Clay had any chance, Cassius Clay stood in front of cameras and reporters and said, without blinking, "I am the greatest. I'm not the greatest because I said it. I'm the greatest because I believe it. The press laughed at him. The bookmakers gave Liston 7-1 odds. The boxing world thought this loud, brash young man was either delusional or suicidal. And then he knocked Liston out. He stood over him and screamed into the night, "I shook up the world. I'm the greatest thing that ever lived." Why does this matter to you? Because most of us wait for permission. We wait for external validation before we allow ourselves to believe in our own potential. We think, once I succeed, then I'll feel confident. Once I get the job, then I'll feel ready. Once I lose the weight, then I'll feel worthy. Ali had it backwards. He chose the belief first, and then went out and made the world catch up with it. Psychologists have a term for this now. They call it self-efficacy, the belief in your own capacity to execute. Study after study shows that people who believe they can do something are dramatically more likely to achieve it, not because belief is magic, but because belief changes behavior. When you believe you can do something, you work harder, you persist longer, you find creative solutions, you take the risks required to win. Ali didn't just talk. He worked. He prepared. He studied his opponents with an almost scientific obsession. The trash talk was the headline. The dedication was the engine. The fight is won or lost far away from witnesses, behind the lines, in the gym, and out there on the road, long before I dance under those lights. Read that again. Let it sink in. The performance everyone sees is built on the preparation nobody sees. Confidence isn't born, it is constructed brick by brick, rep by rep, mile by mile. Muhammad Ali was more than a boxer. He was a philosopher in boxing gloves. Over the decades, he crystallized his approach to life into principles that are just as powerful today as they were when he first lived them. Principle 1. Refuse to be defined by others. In 1964, Cassius Clay joined the Nation of Islam and changed his name to Muhammad Ali. This was a radical act. It cost him friendships, fans, and sponsorships. Many in the press refused to use his new name for years. Ali didn't care. He said, "Cassius Clay is a name given to me by my slave masters," he said. "I didn't choose it and I don't want it. I am Muhammad Ali, a free name, it means beloved of God, and I insist people use it." When the world tries to name you, tries to assign you a label, a limitation, a category, you have the right to reject it. Your identity is not theirs to define. One of the most powerful things you can do is choose your own name, not literally perhaps, but in every meaningful sense. Choose how you define yourself. Choose the story you tell about who you are. Principle 2. Stand for something even when it costs everything. In 1967, at the height of his powers, Muhammad Ali was drafted into the United States Army to fight in the Vietnam War. He refused. "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong," he said. "No Viet Cong ever called me N*********. The consequences were catastrophic. He was arrested. He was stripped of his heavyweight title. His boxing license was revoked. He was banned from fighting for 3.5 years, 3.5 years taken from him during what should have been the peak of his athletic career. He faced up to 5 years in prison. He lost millions of dollars. He did not back down. He was asked later if he regretted it. His answer was immediate, "No. I'd do it again." You have to stand for what you believe or you stand for nothing. There is something the world does not tell you about integrity. It is expensive. Standing for your values will cost you something. Sometimes it will cost you a great deal. The question is not whether the price is high. The question is whether you are willing to pay it. Ali paid it. And history vindicated him completely. The Supreme Court overturned his conviction. He was restored as champion. And the man who had been reviled as a coward was recognized, decades later, as a man of extraordinary moral courage. Principle 3. Impossible is just a starting point. Impossible is just a big word thrown around by small men who find it easier to live in the world they've been given than to explore the power they have to change it. Impossible is not a fact. It's an opinion. Impossible is not a declaration. It's a dare. Impossible is potential. Impossible is temporary. Impossible is nothing. This is perhaps Ali's most famous philosophical statement. And it is not motivational fluff. It is a description of how he actually lived. When he was told it was impossible to come back after 3.5 years out of the sport, he came back. When he was told at 32 he was too old to reclaim the heavyweight title, he reclaimed it. When he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and the world assumed he would retreat into silence, he carried the Olympic torch at the 1996 Atlanta Games and lit the cauldron in front of billions of people. Impossible is not a wall. It is a door. And on the other side of that door is everything you were told you could not have. Now I need to tell you about October 30, 1974. Kinshasa, Zaire. The fight they called the Rumble in the Jungle. Muhammad Ali versus George Foreman. If you think the Liston fight was a mismatch, you don't know George Foreman. The 1974 version of George Foreman was perhaps the most physically terrifying heavyweight who had ever lived. He had destroyed Joe Frazier, destroyed him, in 2 rounds. He had demolished Ken Norton in 2 rounds. Men who had beaten Ali, Foreman had eaten alive. Ali was 32. Past his prime by conventional boxing wisdom. He had been away for 3.5 years. His legs weren't what they were. He couldn't dance for 15 rounds anymore. The experts gave him no chance. What happened in that fight became one of the most brilliant strategic decisions in sporting history, and one of the most instructive lessons in human resilience. Ali went to the ropes. He covered up. He let Foreman hit him. Round after round, Foreman threw everything he had, thunderous shots to Ali's arms, his sides, his head. The crowd was horrified. His corner was screaming. People thought it was over. But Ali had a plan. He talked to Foreman while he was being hit. "Is that all you got, George? That don't hurt. Hit harder. Show me something." He was infuriating Foreman, goading him into throwing wilder, harder, and more exhausting shots. Round by round, Foreman was spending himself. And Ali was waiting. In the 8th round, Foreman was empty. His arms were dead. His power was gone. And Ali stepped off the ropes, threw a lightning combination, and sent George Foreman to the canvas. Muhammad Ali was heavyweight champion of the world again. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, the hands can't hit what the eyes can't see. Here is the lesson, and I need you to hear it clearly. Sometimes resilience looks like lying on the ropes. Sometimes survival is the strategy. There will be periods in your life when you cannot move forward. When all you can do is absorb the blows and hold on. The world will call this weakness. The world will tell you to fight back immediately, to never look vulnerable, to never show that you're struggling. Ali knew better. He understood that endurance is not the same as defeat. That taking a hit and staying standing is its own form of strength. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply refuse to fall, and trust that your moment will come. Your rope-a-dope phase is not your failure. It is your preparation. In 1984, Muhammad Ali was diagnosed with Parkinson's syndrome, a progressive neurological disease, most likely brought on by the thousands of blows he absorbed throughout his career. The man who had been defined by speed, whose hands moved faster than thought, whose feet danced like music made visible, began to slow. His speech became slurred. His hands trembled. His body stopped obeying the commands of a mind that remained as sharp and defiant as ever. This was perhaps the cruelest irony imaginable. The greatest athlete of the 20th century, imprisoned in a body that could no longer perform. How do you face that? How do you wake up every day and look at what you've lost? Ali faced it the same way he faced everything else. He used it. He became a global ambassador for peace and humanitarian causes. He traveled the world. He used his trembling hands to shake the hands of children in need, to open hospitals, to raise funds for the sick and the poor. He refused to let illness define his contribution to the world. In 1996, at the Atlanta Olympic Games opening ceremony, the world watched as a visibly trembling Muhammad Ali stepped forward to receive the Olympic torch. His body shook. The flame wavered. There was a collective intake of breath from billions of viewers. And then he raised that torch above his head and lit the cauldron. The entire world erupted. Because in that moment, everyone understood. This man had not been beaten. Not by opponents, not by exile, not by the government, not by illness. He stood there, broken in body, unbroken in spirit, and gave us something no perfectly healthy, perfectly able person could have given us in that moment. He showed us what a human being truly is. Muhammad Ali died on June 3, 2016, at the age of 74. In his final years he could barely speak. But the message of his life rang louder than anything he had ever shouted into a microphone. Your circumstances do not determine your greatness. Only you do. Let me give you Ali's inheritance, distilled into the things that matter most. He said, "He who is not courageous enough to take risks will accomplish nothing in life." He said, "I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion." That last one is the one I want you to carry with you. He hated training. The greatest of all time, the man whose fitness and dedication have become legendary, hated it. He was not some superhuman being who found suffering easy. He found it just as hard as you do. The difference was that he made a decision. I will suffer now so that I can win later. What are you suffering now that your future self will thank you for? What training are you avoiding because it's hard, because it hurts, because you don't feel like it today? Every day you don't train is a day you're choosing comfort over championship. And that's fine, comfort is not a sin. But you cannot choose comfort every day and also choose greatness. They are not the same road. Here is what I want to leave you with. Muhammad Ali's greatest achievement was not the gold medal. It was not the 3 heavyweight titles. It was not the rumble in the jungle or the thrilla in Manila. It was not even his moral stand against the Vietnam War, as courageous as that was. His greatest achievement was this. He decided who he was going to be, and then he became it. In a world that told him he was worth less. In a system designed to diminish him. Against opponents who were stronger, bigger, and more feared. Through exile, illness, and loss. Through every hit, every setback, every dark season. He never stopped being Muhammad Ali. And that is available to you. Not the boxing record. Not the fame. But the decision. The decision to define yourself before the world defines you. The decision to believe in your potential before you have evidence of it. The decision to stand for something even when it's costly. The decision to get off the ropes and throw your combination when the moment comes. The decision to keep going when your body is trembling and the crowd is watching and the whole world has its breath held. You're in a fight right now. Maybe it's a career fight. Maybe it's a health fight. Maybe it's a relationship fight or a financial fight, or the quiet, invisible fight against your own self-doubt that nobody knows you're having every single morning. Whatever it is, here is your corner team leaning through the ropes telling you, you have more in you than you know. The rounds are not over. Get off the ropes. Float. Sting. Be, against all odds, against all evidence, against every voice that says otherwise, be the greatest version of yourself that this world has ever seen. Muhammad Ali was not born the greatest. He chose it. And so can you.